Welcome to the Lifestyle First podcast, discussing lifestyle medicine and making self-care as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1 question, 2 research reviews, and 3 actionable health tips, all centered around the Lifestyle First method, your blueprint for the 10 key routes of optimal health and happiness. And now your host, lifestyle medicine physician and coach, Dr. Alka Patel.
Hi, hey, and hello, and welcome to Series 8, Episode 9. And the theme that we're focusing on today is E for emotions. And the one question that we're exploring is, how can art enhance your emotional health? Now, to help answer that question, I am delighted to welcome my guest today, who is Richard Wilmore. Rich is the Director of Storytelling for the non-profit organization Hearts Need Art. And he's also the wonderful host of the podcast Arts for the Health of It. So Richard, a very, very warm welcome to you. Great to be having this conversation.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. So when we talk about the arts, Rich, we're talking about a really wide area, aren't we? We're talking about music and art and singing and drawing and writing and probably other things I haven't even thought about. So perhaps you could just tell us about your experience of the connection between these very creative, expressive art forms and health.
Sure. I didn't even know what arts and health was until I've met the founder of Hearts Need Art at a theater. I was going through a divorce, feeling sorry for myself. And I was sitting I moved out of our house and I was sitting in this little apartment feeling sorry for myself. And I thought, I need to get out and I need to do something that I love and I need to go experience something. And I thought, I'm going to take myself on a date to the theater and go see a musical. And I showed up to the theater and someone who worked at the theater said, I want to introduce you to someone. And Constanza Roeder, the founder of Hearts Need Art, was sitting at a little table with a little cardboard sign that she had made herself, giving out pamphlets about Hearts Need Art. And I thought, oh my gosh, I wish it never even dawned on me how it all intersected. And I thought, oh, I wish my parents had access to this. Both of my parents are cancer survivors and have spent a ton of time in hospitals. And I wish they had access to this back home in Wisconsin. And I met her and I went home and I was sitting there feeling sorry for myself again a couple of weeks later. And I thought, you know what? I feel great. All my bills are paid. I should volunteer. And I filled out an application and she emailed me right back and was like, is this Richard Wilmore? And I was like, yes. And we met for coffee and I started volunteering, but it never, I didn't realize what my soul needed was the arts and what that actually meant, we wake up in the morning and you turn on music. Well, why do you do that? What does that do? You think it's just a natural, oh, this is my routine of the day, but that's actually doing something to your health and you don't even realize it, which is fascinating, but also sad that not everybody gets it. And I didn't get it until I started working for Hearts Need Art.
And you're right, actually, we don't really make that connection between art forms and how they affect us. And so we don't really think about health and art together in one sentence, do we? But you're absolutely right. There's something physiological that happens to us when we turn to our creative, expressive states, when we tune in to listening to music that ultimately is connected to emotion, isn't there? We always have this emotional response that's evoked when we listen to music.
Right. And it isn't always just the happy times. It's, you're angry and you want to listen to a certain song, or even painting. Sometimes you just need to make a mess on a canvas, and it doesn't have to be hung in a gallery. Most of my art gets hung on the walls of a garbage can, but it's the process of just making a mess, painting, drawing, whatever. It's just the process of actually doing it, not necessarily what comes out of it, or if it's good, quote unquote, good or bad. It's actually just doing it. And it's oftentimes like me going to the theater through my divorce. I wasn't on stage. It was ingesting the theater that helped me. It was just being around the creation of it that is also beneficial. Going to museums, stuff like that actually has health benefits.
So why do you think that is? So what I recognize in what you're saying, and what I've also noticed, is that people tend to turn to arts. If it's not something in their professional capacity, they discover it at times of challenge or difficulty or crisis, don't they? Why do you think that that's the time that us humans turn to the arts?
I think because we, as adults especially, get away from it. Someone at some point said, you're not a good singer, or you should stop painting, or you shouldn't be in the band anymore. And we listened to them. When we're kids, we draw on walls and paper, and it gets hung on the refrigerator and celebrated. But as you get older, you start to be afraid to show people what you're doing. And so we wait until it's the point of crisis, but it's really how we've always, as humans, have dealt with things is through the arts. Like cave paintings, all of that stuff is all art. And then you get away from it now that we're in the busyness of life. But I always think, like, I can't imagine what it would be like if we didn't wait until we were in a hospital bed or an end of life situation, like if we were always creating. And I feel really lucky with my job as director of storytelling. I get to be around music and art and creators all day, every day. And it has completely changed my life.
Yeah. Gosh, it's so interesting what you're saying. It's actually recalled a memory of my own, actually. And I do remember at school having a collage that I'd created of a simple bunny rabbit being laughed at by my art teacher. And actually, she did say the words, "You're not really very good at art, are you?" And you're right, I shut down. I didn't really draw again. If I described myself in those terms, I would say, "Oh, no, I can't draw." And it took me 30 years. It took me and my daughter going on a day trip out to an art gallery. And she loves art and she really is creative. And her sitting me down and handing me a pad and saying, "Hey, Mum, draw." And I did. And it took 30 years to undo that. And that creativity, that flow, that almost that permission to allow yourself to create is what I think people need, don't they?
Yeah, it's like your birthright to be able to create and express yourself. And to take that away, it literally stunts you in many ways. I got kicked out, similar to you, I got kicked out of band class in 4th grade. And it's like a memory that I tell over and over because it was so devastating to me, but I was also not practicing my instrument. So that's why he kicked me out. But, I think like it's like a voice teacher. Constanza, our founder, is a voice coach. And she always says, anybody can sing. Anybody can be taught how to sing. Some people do it naturally, but anyone can sing. And I feel like that's how it should be. Anybody can draw like you, anybody can play the trumpet. They just need better teachers, maybe.
So where do you start? I'm wondering if there are listeners today who are also resonating with what you're saying and have that sense of shutdown. Where do you start if you haven't picked up a pen or a pencil or a paintbrush? If you haven't utilized your voice, you might sing silently to yourself in the car or the shower, but that is about it. Where do you start?
I think that's literally where you start, is with a pen and paper. Yeah. Don't overthink it. We do a lot of virtual art classes with people at Hearts Need Art, and we try to create our programming around things you could get on a grocery store run. So it's nothing that you have to spend a ton of money on. It's nothing that you need to have a college degree to know what paint goes on what canvas and what paper and which brush to use. You literally pick up a piece of paper and a pencil and just start making marks and see what happens. There are a lot of groups, especially during the pandemic, that for people who were content creators, like video people on YouTube and all of those, where they had challenges to make a 5-minute video every day of a month. and to watch yourself just from that starting point to see where you started on day one compared to the final day of how you've grown. And it can go that quickly, and you learn every time you do it. You find something new, or you get a little braver every time to maybe make a bigger mark instead of just a small one, or use a different color, or maybe sing a little bit louder next time.
Sure. So turning then to the arts and emotional health, what have you noticed about some of the turnarounds that you've seen in people that you've been interacting with through your organization?
We can go into a hospital room of someone who we get called in a lot for patients who aren't listening to their nurses or their medical staff, who won't take showers, who won't eat, and they don't know what to do. They're not taking their medication. And there's something about it that you walk in and you have that commonality, and you're not talking about why they're in the hospital. They're not talking about what's wrong with them. They're talking about, like, what can we do that you want us to do? You have that choice. You can pick a song. You can pick, are we using crayons or paint today? And when you're, again, at the time of crisis, or when you're hurting, you don't get a lot of choice. And we give that choice. I know for me personally, anxiety has gone down, depression has gone down, because I'm able to express my feelings in other ways than just like internalizing them and getting angry and having that spiral. I get to put it on paper or listen to a song and scream it out at the top of my lungs. And just being able to release your emotions oftentimes will get rid of some of that emotional stress.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a huge benefit in that, isn't there? Perhaps, as an adjunct to all the sort of usual approaches to mental health that we're so familiar with, this may be sort of an untapped area. And that idea of going into hospitals and into patient settings to provide this care, this level of care, is really very very humbling to hear. But sadly as well, this is not the sort of training that's integrated into healthcare at all. I mean, certainly from a doctoring angle and a medical angle, the benefit of art in health is not something that we're taught about. What's your view on that in terms of integrating arts into healthcare training?
I think it should be as natural as you get a nurse when you get into a hospital, you get a doctor, and you get an artist. And that's kind of our vision at Hearts Need Art, that everybody does that. There are places around the world who have completely integrated arts in their hospitals and in their care, but there are obviously more that don't. And a lot of places have never even heard of it. And then when you make that connection of, oh yeah, like it's sort of that like aha moment of like, why has no one thought about this? But people have. It's just not catching on as quickly as other things have. Yeah. It's also a really cheap way to help patients cope with being in a hospital or being sick. Literally giving them a coloring book. It's a distraction is really what we do a lot at Hearts Need Art. Is we're just there to like hang out with people. We're not therapists where we're going in to try to get some sort of reaction or, analyze their artwork or figure out why they're listening to this music or that music. It's really just creation and expression. Why don't we run around and play tag anymore? It's like little things like that. Like, why do we stop creating and being fun, really? Yeah. And there's a book you recommend, isn't there, one by Corey MacDonald, Life in Full Colours, where she talks about this, doesn't she? She talks about unlocking that childlike curiosity. So do you have an answer to that question? Why don't we run around playing tag? Why don't we unlock our childlike curiosity as we get into adulthood? I think we're afraid of rejection and we're afraid of judgment. And we have built, kids don't care. Kids will run up to anybody and talk to anybody. Kids will run around. Kids will wear whatever they want to wear, whatever they're feeling, whatever colors. And we've been programmed to care what other people think about what we're creating or doing. I think that's where it comes from. And when you are able to let that go, I mean, the possibilities are endless. Corey McDonald, I got to interview her on our podcast, and I interviewed her and then was editing that episode and was so awestruck by her and so excited about it that I went and ordered the book for myself because I was so enamored with her. She's a wonderful person.
Oh, definitely. So yes, wonderful. Definitely something that you're recommending to listeners. So I'll put the links on that for that book into the notes. As you say, there's something in there which does unlock your own curiosity as you turn those pages, doesn't it? Which is lovely. So what about coming back to music, and where I've seen it used as well, Rich, is in care homes, so in places where adults are experiencing dementia. What's your experience about that connection between music and dementia? Because music is almost that universal language, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a different part of your brain. I don't know if you saw... There are some studies coming out and some news articles coming out finally about the power of music. And, there are people who can't remember their children, but a song from when they were 18 comes on and they know every word. And we're just finally starting to realize that might actually be something to look into. I saw a quote once, I don't remember who it was from. And I think it was someone that I had talked to, but they said, how many times have you memorized an entire chapter of a book? And how many songs have you memorized from your childhood?
Yeah.
And I was like, that's so interesting. And I never thought about that.
Yeah. Because they come back, don't they, to you? And there's something there about that, again, emotional connection.
Yes. And you can be at a live concert with 30,000 other people, and you think that person on stage is singing only to you. Like, how do these other people know that song? Like, that song was written for me, like, that's my song. That's my theme song. And you never think about it. You never think that how relatable music is, because everyone that's coming from that person's life experiences. And oftentimes we're experiencing the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I guess another form of expression is also writing, isn't it? Writing in itself is an art form. And we're certainly talking a lot more about journaling as a way of expression. Do you have any experience with that, and how to almost carve out that resilience through writing?
I call it word vomiting. And a lot of people at Hearts Need Art tell me I shouldn't say that because it sounds gross. But word vomiting, which is going onto your computer or writing down on paper and pen, which is a whole nother level of intimacy, right? Like, not just typing, like your hand on a page, but just writing, not caring about punctuation, not caring if things are spelled correctly, and anything in your head goes out on paper. And oftentimes during that, you will begin to process what's happening throughout your day, or what's happened in your life, or what your thoughts are. Then it doesn't have to be for anybody. You don't have to write it down to publish a book. It can solely be for yourself. And doing that every day for 5 minutes can change your life.
Yeah. And I've certainly seen that in my practice. I'm so glad that you've mentioned that, because I've seen that, that sense of just emptying whatever's on your mind in whatever form it's coming out, and having that space. And you're right, there's something about going from brain to hand to paper that really kind of gives it that sense of, this is concrete. This isn't just thoughts going round and round in my head that I can't make sense of. This is stuff that I'm able to pour out onto paper. And there is a real catharsis that's associated with that. Certainly my patients have come back to me and said just how powerful that was, how useful that was, how it really helped them to understand themselves better.
Yes.
As well, which is wonderful. I also, Rich, I use that exercise as well to help people to find their purpose in a way. When you write down without stopping all the things that really matter to you in your life, it's also a really useful way to tap into that side of you as well.
Yeah, we give out journals to patients in the hospital, and we have writers go in and talk to them. And oftentimes the patients won't want to write anything while the writer is in the room, or, they're not interested in it. But the nurses tell us that late at night when it's quiet, family isn't around, they'll go into a room and so many patients are writing.
Yeah.
And, it's always sad when you go in a room. I always tell people, like, I like no's as much as I like yeses, like you can join Hearts Need Art and do what we're doing, or you can say no, and that's your priority and your prerogative, and we're okay with that. But, to know that they're using it after in their alone time to really think about what they're doing is so special.
Yeah. Oh no, you're absolutely right. There's something about just having that solace for yourself to give you, again, back to permission, give yourself permission to just let that be is really important, isn't it, as well? And there's another lovely journal that you recommend as well. Practice Makes Progress. Is it Amy Latta? Tell us about this.
Yes, Amy Latta is actually a friend of mine from when I used to live in a different state, and she has written many books about hand lettering. So it's like taking words, which can be art, and turning the words into art. So it's beautiful, almost like calligraphy that she creates. Yeah. And she designs all of her books and the covers, and she is releasing a creative journal, which I am obsessed with these, which is sort of like Corey McDonald's book is also like that. Like they encourage you to write in the book, to draw in the book, to draw, they give you space for all of that. And I love the way that when you can go into something like that and sort of maybe do multiple things and not just sit and write in a journal or not just color on a coloring page, you're sort of tricking yourself into doing multiple arts all at the same time. Yeah. And then also, being able to read what they're writing and be kind of introspective about your life and what you want to talk about in that journal.
And now, here is your lifestyle first prescription. Your 3 activating actions to take you from knowing to doing.
Maybe you could now share, Rich, 3 actions for our listeners to take today, perhaps thinking about those who might be experiencing some emotional up and down at the moment, and maybe ways for them to tap into creative expression as a way of helping that.
I think a big one is try a little bit of everything. Don't assume that you're going to like paint or that singing is going to be your thing that you're comfortable with. And that's okay to not be comfortable with something. So try any way to create that you can and see what you love about. If that's cooking, cool, go do it. If that's gardening, if that's writing music, picking up a guitar and learning that, that's what I think that would be my number one. And then the second one would be just make marks, get paper and get some colors and just start scribbling, literally scribbling. Because that releases so much. Yeah. I love doing that. Like my favorite thing is to take paint and just spread it all over paper and it all ends up like brown. But I love the way it feels going across a canvas. I love the shininess of the paint. There's so many different elements that it goes beyond just whatever's on the canvas. It's all the little pieces.
Yeah.
And the third one, I would say, sing louder the next time you're singing, just like a little bit, because there's something about that too, about being able to use your voice. Mm-hmm. And I end up doing that a lot in the car. As it starts off quiet especially when other people are in the car, I'm sort of humming to myself. And then by the time we're at our destination, we're all in our own little band screaming at the top of our lungs and we're all in a great mood.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. Those are 3 things that actually we can all do tomorrow. In fact, we can all do straight away, can't we? Have that scribble, sing out louder, yes, and just try something out. That's lovely. And it is that release, isn't it? And also maybe just pausing to notice the difference that this makes for you.
Yeah. What is your body telling you?
Yeah.
What is your mind telling you? What's your reaction to it? If it's not a good reaction, if you're not comfortable, stop, try something else. You're not forced to do anything.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you, Rich. This is really so helpful today. And I'm sure people will want to know more about what you do and how you do it. So tell us the best way to reach out.
Sure. You can go on our website, heartsneedart.org. We're on all the social media things at Hearts Need Art. And I'll probably be the one to respond to whatever. If you email us or send us something, I'll probably be the one to respond to it.
Yeah. Perfect. And I would certainly recommend everyone clicking the link and having a look at the work of Hearts Need Art, because there's some very special things on your website as well, aren't there? So wonderful. Thank you so much, Rich. This really has been an uplifting conversation. You can see I'm smiling at the end, ready and eager to start scribbling. So
let me know what you create after this. I want to know.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Which now simply leaves me to wish everyone a happy, healthy day.
Thanks for joining us on the Lifestyle First podcast, making self-care as easy as 1, 2, 3. Don't forget to subscribe and share, and we'd love it if you'd be kind enough to leave a review. To learn more or to arrange a consultation, please visit www.dralkapatel.com. See you next time.